Ball Knight, and this is Jeremy Jenkins.
Jeremy Jenkins.
And this is a completely organic podcast. We don't even have a name for it just yet.
That's right.
I guess we can begin with kind of what brought us to starting a podcast.
Okay.
You want to kick it off?
Yeah. We, Joey and I have been friends for a long time. It's been a couple of decades. And we always have these profound conversations. And we can talk about anything from sports to theology to lifestyle, anything, health. And at the end of our conversations, we always say, man, we should have been recording this. This would have been a great podcast.
That's right.
Joey's big into podcasts. I'm getting into podcasts. We both have incredible stories. So this was our attempt to try to get together and record a conversation.
That's right.
Yeah, basically is what it is.
Yeah, and really this is a selfish endeavor because, like you said, at the end of every conversation, it's like, man, we should have been recording that. Like, man, that could have set somebody free. So if the viewers of this can get a piece of what we get from those regular conversations, I mean, it's going to be a blessing, so that's kind of what got us here, man.
Yeah. So we go from the top, like, how do we know each other?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your version of that story?
All right. So, so USC. My story is I went to 3 different colleges. I went to school for 7 years. Some people call doctors that do that.
I'm still in school.
Yeah.
We may get into that.
Yeah, man. So I got to a point where I was looking at pledging the fraternity, and from my time at USC and before I got to Carolina, I was, I knew some alphas, I knew some kappas, and that didn't fit me. The stereotypes, but also the people I knew just didn't fit me. And then one of my cousins was in Omega from state, and he was actually the president down there in the 80s. And that didn't fit me at all. He's just, so I got to a point I was like, man, let me just do some research and see, what these fraternities all about. And so I came across, Phi Beta Sigma, and I looked it up, Brotherhood Scholarship Service. That makes some sense. Started doing a little deeper dive. Now at this point, I've been at Carolina for a year.
This is about 2000.
2001. This was about spring 2001. Yeah. Because I came up spring 2001, so this would have been the end of 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, right around time those guys across.
Yeah.
So at this point, I know 0 sigmas. Like I had alphas in my classes because I was in engineering at the time, and but I didn't know any sigmas. And at the time, I was working a job and I played a lot of basketball on campus. So lo and behold, a few months later, an interest meeting occurred. And so I go into this interest meeting and I'm starting to see faces that I recognize from the gym, from basketball or from working out in the gym. And I'm like, hey, I know that guy. Oh, he's pretty cool. I know that guy too. Oh, he's pretty cool too. Oh, they Sigmas. Okay. Which is kind of culture because at the time, like, Sigma was a real big deal at USC. Mm-hmm. They threw some wild parties and I hadn't been to any of those parties and I didn't know any Sigmas. But, this is the path I chose. And so I think my first recollection of you was actually like maybe in the IG meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay.
And you're one of the guys I recognized from the basketball court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my version would be about the same, really. It was 2001 or so, and it was your interest in joining the fraternity. But you were always a solid brother, man. Always.
Appreciate it.
I was telling the kids earlier, I said Joey always was a straight shooter, even when we used to get a little bit wild and crazy.
Our version of wild and crazy.
Yeah. So, learning, got to know each other in the frat. You crossed 2002, spring 2K2, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, number 10. Ether, big brother Ether.
I ain't heard that in a while.
Yeah. So that's where it all started. That was 2001. It's 2023 now. That's 20-something years.
That's right.
And so that's where we got started.
That's right, man. Yeah. And we've been in each other. Well, I was in your wedding. Oh wow. Back in
2007.
Okay.
Yep. So I got married in 2007.
Yes.
Spartanburg, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So my wife Gina.
Shout out to the Beacon.
Shout out to the Beacon. A lot of meals at the Beacon. So, Gina and I have been married 16 years. Joey was in the wedding. We had a huge wedding in Spartanburg. So
we got footage.
We played some basketball before the wedding as well, and I fell and
that was
almost injured myself.
That was
had to cancel the wedding.
Oh yeah.
fast forward a little bit, and you were into health way before I cared about health. So I remember you running. At one point, I remember you being plant-based. And I remember thinking, this guy's crazy. Now I'm in that crazy category with you, but your interest in health, I think, was a big turning point. Not a turning point, but it was something I definitely remember. So what started you down that health path?
Man,
when did that start, and what started you down that path?
I've always been interested in health. I remember when I was 19, and I was at USC Aiken at the time, and I would get I'm a nerd, man. I would geek out. I'd go down a rabbit hole and study something. I mean, I remember reading articles on the different portions of the brain in high school. Just, who does that? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But I think it comes from being in sports. Like I play sports year-round. When I got into the 11th grade, my parents, I was driving myself. So, before then, it's like you're doing one sport. You're not coming up there every day to pick you up. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I was able to drive, I was doing 3 sports again, and so it kind of spurned from that, just wanting to be the best athlete you can be. Okay, then what do I need to do? How do I need to work out? What do I need to eat? But yeah, fast forward. I mean, when I was 19, I was getting like every article in men's health. Reading every article, reading the food journals, the food articles, what's the latest workout craze and stuff like that. But as far back as I can remember, I've always been into it at some level. And then, of course, at one point I backslid and I put on some weight.
Not much though.
Yeah,
man. Not a lot. You've been. I was telling the kids earlier, like I said, you've been a straight shooter. And, you might have backslid a little bit, but you've been committed. And I used to buy the men's health. A lot of people buy them. A lot of people don't do it though. It's the doing that's the hard part.
That's right. And don't just be readers.
Don't be readers. Yeah. Don't be readers of the word. Do what it said.
That's right. That's good stuff.
So I admire that about you, your health journey. And I got on my health journey as well. And this was pre-pandemic, so 2023, 2019, 2020 was the pandemic. I backslid and found myself in a very uncomfortable size, weight. And you and I did a lot of talking during that time, and we started I found a book on fat. No, actually, we talked about it. I don't know if you found it first or what, but I started down that path, and I really got serious about it in April of 2019, and I just have not turned back. So it's been 4 years, a little bit over 4 years, down 75 pounds.
It's amazing, man.
I was 300, I'm 225 now. I ain't had a sip of alcohol in about 4 years.
I see cheekbones.
You can see my cheekbones. I got my boyish looks again. I'm sugar-free now. It's been a grind. It's been a journey, but I feel better than ever. But it ain't been easy, man. It's not been easy.
But yeah,
that sounds a lot better.
After talking with you about, because I think you found the book. We talked about it, but I think you found the book. And what was the first one that you read?
The Obesity Code.
Yeah, The Obesity Code was the first one.
Jason Fung.
Yep, Jason Fung. And when we talked about that, you had read it and I hadn't, but it gave me...
You'd already lost
the vocabulary. Yes.
You'd already lost a bunch.
In essence, I was doing intermittent fasting.
Okay.
So listening to you talk about the book gave me the vocabulary for what I was already doing, but I didn't understand it.
Okay.
Because I was eating an early dinner.
Okay.
The next day I wasn't eating breakfast until 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I had that built into my schedule on top of the exercise and, the clean eating at the time. So it's like, oh, that's why it worked that time.
That's why. That explains it.
Exactly.
The why, man, is what a lot of people...
Exactly.
It's the why.
Because you can do a whole lot of stuff and something works, and if you're not tracking it and you don't know what you got the success from, it's hard to duplicate.
Yeah.
You know? And it's hard to... And you can't relate it.
Yeah.
You can just tell them, well, I made these 10 changes,
Yeah.
Just try all 10, something gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really, that connected a whole lot of dots for me.
Okay.
And so it also gave me confidence in sharing my story because I could tell them this is why this worked for me. Mm-hmm. And I could explain it on a scientific level if they needed to get there.
Yeah.
Now granted, that doesn't make people change to make them do it.
It's the doing. I've learned that there's a difference between knowing and doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jason Fung. super instrumental in the journey for me. Him, as well as a guy named Robert Lustig, was another guy who wrote Fat Chance. He's the guy that talks about sugar. So I really, both of those bodies of work is really, I had a light bulb experience. I was watching a Jason Fung video, and I remember to this day, I was upstairs and I'm sitting there, and he started getting into this 2-compartment problem and insulin and leptin, and I'm like, oh my God. But I was fasting and something hit me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, and it's like I had this aha moment. And I'm like, number one, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I put a lot of effort into it, but nothing was working. I was just getting bigger and bigger. Once I had that moment, I was like, I got to be the mad scientist, and I have to do this to myself.
Yeah.
So
you got to be willing to self-experiment.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of my superpower, other than just geeking out on stuff. Like, I mean, I can study something and just try it. I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah. Time gonna go by no matter what, regardless. So I might as well try to better myself. And if it works, then hey, I can go a little deeper. Yeah. You know, I think that's one thing that's really been beneficial. Yeah. You know, just willing to try things. But I think you got to have a certain level of curiosity to be willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was I had tried everything else. I had counted everything. I was working out. Looking at me, you would have thought, oh, he's a former football player. I ain't played a day of football my whole entire life. So I'm like, something's not adding up. 6'3", 300. Mm-hmm. And I'm not playing on Sundays.
Yeah, you got to be an offensive tackle.
I need to be an offensive
Give me that autograph, man. So I don't play with anybody. You kidding me?
You stop playing. Stop playing. You used to play. No, I ain't never played. Yes, so it was like, but I had tried everything else, and I'm like, Jason Fung could explain why this worked, but he could also explain why the others did not work. Yeah. So I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about, but I'm gonna have to give this some time, number one, which means I got to commit to myself for an extended period of time. And I said, I'm gonna do this for 6 months. I gave myself 6 months, and that 6 months is just turned into like 4 years at this point.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And that's another aspect, like you said, that time is gonna pass. Yeah. So, I mean, you might as well try. Yeah. You know, you got to be willing to try. You want to tell them about the Fast Way Out? Sure. So, around this time, I was doing a bunch of fasting and losing some weight. And I felt the need to tell people to share the story. And Joey had a similar story to tell. And we decided to get together and just try to share this information is what it was. But it ended up being October 2019, October 1st, 2019 is when we launched the initial group of the Fast Way Out. It ended up being like 20 people, most people that you pulled in. I was about to not do it. I don't think I ever told you that. No, man. Come on, man. Don't quit on me.
Because I remember it was September. Mm-hmm. We were going into that fall. We had been talking about it. Yeah. But it's the doing that stops a lot of people. And I was like, I got this job and I was about to not. Because we got to get a message out to the people. We'd already gotten the people together. They were waiting on like a welcome.
That's right.
And I was about to text you and say, you know what, I don't have time. And then right when I texted you, you sent me a text and said, we need to get a message out. And I was like, so we got a message out, and it was a group, family, friends, just people trying to share information. Yep. And it was a good experience. It seems like forever ago.
It was detailed, man. Like we were using the fasting app. Yeah. We were getting messages out through email on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Tracking hours.
Yeah, tracking hours. Yeah, people putting in their fasting hours. Man, it was awesome. I mean, and we actually had a group chat.
We had a group chat
so people can encouraging people, sharing recipes and things like that, man.
And the pandemic hit.
Yep, that's right.
The pandemic. I just thought, pandemic hit. But to this day, I wear the Fast Way Out on my wrist. And this is, it ended up being a spiritual thing. We may get into that, but fasting is health, it's wellness, it's also spiritual. And so Ezra 8:23 is the scripture that I use for the Fast Way Out. But it was such a meaningful time for me. I still to this day wear the Fast Way Out on my wrist because I had to fast my way out of stuff. And I don't know that I would have gotten out otherwise. So
there's certain things that only prayer and fasting.
Some things only go out by prayer and fasting.
That's right, man.
Hey. So thank you for checking out the first episode of the Joey and Jeremy podcast. Story's really just getting started, so we got a lot more recorded. Story gets better, scenery changes, the background changes. So yeah, we're just getting started. We hope you got something from it that might be helpful, might be useful for you. And we hope you'll continue to join us as we continue to take this journey. So God bless you and take care.